So, Reggie, considering how much time that he spent in Corinth, you look through his letters and they're pretty messed up. I mean, what is it about Corinth specifically that caused them to have so much difficulty, or basically all churches just like that? I mean,
That's a good question. Probably if we could know all the churches, we would find a pretty deep pile of stuff
yeah.
as well. But Corinth does seem to be particularly exotic when it comes to the sin scale. And I don't know exactly all that goes into that. Corinth had a reputation. I mean, to Corinthiate was to act out sexually as far as other Greeks were concerned. It was a port city. It was a very wealthy city. You had to go through Corinth. You didn't have to, but it was a path of choice to go through Corinth, whether you're going from east to west, as opposed to sailing around the southern isthmus. And so there was plenty of opportunity for misbehaving in Corinth, and because it was a wealthy city, and it looks like there were a significant number of wealthy Christians, there were ways for that wealth to work its way into the church's sense of self-importance.
Is that it's almost like you got to watch out when you have too much money or too much time, because you'll find yourself getting into trouble.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Well, and it was a center of power too, because it was a Roman colony, and had a Roman governor in place, and it was it wasn't just wealthy, but it was new wealth. The city had been destroyed by the Romans and then rebuilt, and it was within 100 years of Paul's having been there, and there was still lots of. It was a city on the way up. So yeah, whenever you have a prosperous, bustling metropolis.
So really, we're just talking about a lot of cultural influences that they weren't able just to shelter themselves from, or have. Would you say that their theology or their understanding just wasn't strong enough for them to be able to keep their heads on straight? Or
well, and part of the theology problem was a basic misunderstanding about how much God's promises had been fulfilled, and a confusion about the spiritual nature of the promises and the physical prosperity and power that the Corinthians enjoyed. So there was some crossing of signals between sort of cultural success and equating that with spiritual success.
Yeah.
And then, what happens often is you baptize your sins, and
it goes downhill from there.
Yeah, it goes downhill from there, yeah.
Yeah, so Corinth is really kind of a warning to a lot of us that find ourselves in more prosperous and wealthy nations.
Yes, it really is. And, I mean, there's those of us who live in prosperous Western cities. We read the letter to the Corinthians and we go, oh my goodness, he's writing to us.